You're on.
Hi, here we are back again in the studios of Shaw Cable with Nelson Becker and Pat Murphy, president of Nelson University Center. Thanks for coming, Pat.
You're welcome.
Great. It looks like this whole count is just about over. We've just discovered that Bill Ramsden will be the new mayor of Nelson. Anybody want to say anything to that at this moment?
No, but I'm happy we have a mayor, you know, and and I know that the rest of the councillors will be the decision will be made fairly soon. I would like to ask Pat some questions. Sure. You know, how's the university going these days? Everybody who we had on has said, you know, one way or another that, gee, you know, one of the best resources that this community, you know, should work on is education, you know, and the Nelson University Center has been struggling for the last couple of years, and from a point of being an idea to actually offering courses. Can you give us a quick update on what the status is?
Well, this year we've gone from being evening school, which wasn't our choice last year, but was what our students wanted, to a full-time day program. We've held our student body and our student enrollment for for these 2 years. It is an uphill battle, but we started with more students than Trinity Western started with, or even Notre Dame at the back of the bakery. I think one of the reasons the university could start is because of the kind of support of the city and city council, and because of the support of the community and their realization what a university means for a community. And I think that Nelson, as usual, is at, not you personally, the city of Nelson,
right.
is at the forefront again. It was back before the turn of the century that the University Club was insightful enough to know that British Columbia needed a university, and started lobbying, and after 40 long years was able to get a university in British Columbia. And so our brief lifetime has meant that in the university world we're on the fast track. It might not appear so, but we are breaking new ground as we're fast tracking. So I think that it's very exciting. We're hearing from all over Canada and the United States of support for the kind of initiative we are as a city-sponsored, community-supported independent university that's focusing on what I think is the curriculum of the future, which is liberal studies, the generalist rather than the technical or the specialist. That's not to say we don't need all of them, but currently in Western Canada there is no small undergraduate university that focuses on the liberal arts, or a person who gets to know the whole picture. And people in industry, even the heads of banks are now saying, look, I've got to hire some people who can see the whole picture, not just the balance sheet, as well as those people who know what kind of a satisfying life it is to be an intellectual and to also live the exam in life. So we're having a lot of fun because all of our intellectuals also can grow their own vegetables or build their own houses. So that makes it a very unique kind of university, as Nelson is a unique community.
Mm-hmm. So then this must be, the whole curriculum is changing, I mean, throughout the province now, gearing to the year 2000.
Yes.
And so it seems to me that you're in a very good position right now to flow into that change. You haven't been around for 300 years, which some universities have been established that long on this continent. And so I think you'd be much more adaptable to what's beginning to happen throughout the school system. Is that what you're aiming to?
Right. I can give you 2 examples about that. The chair of our board, the NUC Education Society, is a kindergarten teacher. So she is very familiar, Mrs. Eileen Norris. Mm-hmm. So she's familiar with the new curriculum that's being brought in. Right. And in some ways, that kindergarten integrated curriculum is being carried through right now in what we see in our forward curriculum at NUC. And we see that being a flexible, evolving curriculum. What that curriculum is this year, 10 years from now, may be very changed and evolved. Mm-hmm. And at one point I talked to the president of Reed College, and it was interesting. He just took a big sigh and he said, oh, to just be starting, to not be encumbered by all these traditions. Right. And I think we hope that we can grow a university that won't be structured and that will be organic so that it can continue to change by being small, by keeping administration down, keeping the overhead costs down, and having the energy, whether that be money or conversation, flow between the faculty and the student, that's a university. And that's what I think Nelson is not unique, but the vanguard of the future, because it is a very affordable way of providing quality, excellent university education. And other communities across British Columbia may wish to do the same. Although a lot of universities or communities don't have the kind of facilities or resources that we have here. Human resources. And I know that that's one of the concerns for Prince George. And I remember talking earlier that when we started, we had more applications for faculty than for students because of the quality of life of Nelson, because of the understanding of people of what that quality of life stands for in providing the academic atmosphere that's necessary for a good university.
But with all of that, and with all of that encouragement and excitement that you put forth, at the moment the courses don't yet have full university credit, or do they?
We have full university transfer to Eastern Washington University in the United States.
Is that
as
sufficient?
well as Cheney, and we are working with Tri-University President's Council. But again,
I'm sorry, what is the Tri-University? Just give me a quick...
Yes, well, it used to be that the three universities worked with advanced education, but somewhere along the line that got broken down, and then they found some need, and so the three universities, the University of British Columbia, Simon Fraser, and the University of Victoria, the three presidents have gotten together and formed committees. So before we can talk to the registrars of these three universities, we have to go through a process of review. There is no accreditation in Canada, so it's a process of review with this group before we can talk to these people. It's unique in Canada. I don't know if it's even ensconced in law, but it's one of those things that these institutions do. We have also been able to get student loans through the efforts of Mr. Dirks and Advanced Education Training and Technology, they call it now. But the announcement was made on August 3rd, and so student loans, it takes 10 weeks to process. So I don't think we'll see the results for that until next fall. And I hope by next fall we have transfer. It's a very difficult process. And you see, to keep the flexibility of the curriculum, I'm sure that our standards almost exceed some of the standards at the other universities. But somehow, if you don't look exactly like us, it's a process of re-educating even those institutions.
When you say transfer, you mean transfer to UBC or transfer to UVic?
Right.
Or...
So, but then in terms of the quality of who we are and acceptance, Cheney, the University of Eastern Washington University, has been extremely supportive of us. Our transfer agreement went not only through each of their departments and the Senate there, but also through the legislature at the state of Washington and their accrediting board. So people can be assured that the quality and standards of our courses are university quality and standards. It's just the kind of very unique situation in Western Canada regarding transfer credits and how those are used. But we have approached Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba, but their position is unless a university in British Columbia accepts our courses and transfer, they won't. But that has not ruled out that an individual might take their transcript forward personally and get those courses accepted there. So it's just a matter of getting more students and having them try out the system. But by that time we'll be degree granting, because I hope by 1995 Nelson University Center will be chartered as a degree granting institution.
1995?
Yes, and in education in 1997 and in the fine arts in 1999. That's not to say we won't be starting to offer those courses, but it's the degree granting status. So that's the agenda we've given to advanced education. They didn't fall over in their chairs when we told them so.
Yes. Now, it'll take 4 years to get a degree. You mean that once 1995, there will be students graduating?
With a degree.
With a degree.
So this fall...
They would have started their courses this fall. Or...
This fall will be our first graduating class, the beginning of our first graduating class.
Wow, that's great.
Yes. Now that's subject to us meeting the standards and qualifications. But so far we've met all that, and I don't see any reason why we won't continue to meet that.
So now we have a city council and a new mayor that's coming in, And what can they do, as far as you're concerned, to help this process along?
Well, it's the city sponsorship that enabled us to start and to have the chutzpah, if you wish, to start a small university here in Nelson. And it is the city sponsorship that has enabled us to get off the ground, the seed money to go. And I think that this provides a unique opportunity for communities, because I think it's the start of the decentralization, or Schumacher's small is beautiful. But I believe education, when it's owned by the community, is a much more viable form of education.
Thank you, Pat. Just hold on. We've got some interesting developments coming from Central School right now. I'm going to switch over to Marianne right now. Hi, Marianne. You there?
Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Yes.
What's going
Patrick
on?
and I are here again. I've just talked to Doug Ormond. They're doing a count on the advance poll, which would total 130 votes. That should be finished being counted in a few minutes. I don't think it's going to change the outcome all that much, but it would be enough to swing it one way or the other from what we predicted a few minutes ago with Ramsden. Now, Patrick's here to give you an update on the school board race as well.
Yeah, incidentally, the advanced poll include an advanced poll that was opened twice at City Hall, and that was for people who wouldn't be here on election day, and a mobile poll which would travel around to various people who are stuck in homes or of that kind of thing. With school board, we've got now these. Again, we're counting these as fast as we can, but we still can't be up to date. And so as of well, fairly recently, we've got 491 for none. For Randy Breeder, we've got 464 for Alan Birch. We've got 426 for Bev Dendies. We've got 412. For Heather Tomlin, we've got 374, and for Brian Williamson, we've got 362. But anything can still happen, Heather. We've you know, like we've been saying all evening, they can change at any minute. The advanced polls are still being counted, and that is an unknown. We don't know how things are going to go there as with anything else. Everything is still up in the air.
Great, thanks, Patrick. With only 130, Heather, it shouldn't take that long to know the outcome of the mayors. With the alderman votes, they're about 2/3 of the way through. As you can imagine, with 12 candidates, it's taking them quite a bit longer to do than the mayors and the school board. So we'll be back to you in a few minutes, hopefully, with the final results on the mayor's race.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Nelson. Hi, Pat.
Hi.
They're doing a great job down there at Central School. I was handed some figures, just general percentages of the popular vote, but again, this might change with the advanced poll, so I'm going to hang on to these until the final count is in. Now, where were we? I think you two were...
I got lost there.
Oh, well, that's the exciting part of living in Nelson.
First I thought, and then I thought, and...
We were talking about a city-sponsored university and the contribution that City Council and Mayor Rodering had provided us in starting up as a university.
Yes, and now that there's a new council, soon to be,
Yes.
and a new mayor, soon to be, do you sense that it makes much of a difference? Is the university enough of a non-political issue that generally it doesn't matter who gets elected, that the university will go ahead anyway?
Well, I believe that when...
Don't talk about anybody specific.
No, I'm not. I believe that we showed through the campaign a lot of support for having a university. The university not only diversifies the economy and in the future will provide a stabilizing effect because of the, what do they call that? the spin-off effect. So it's not only that the university is there, but students need resources, just as we've found from the great impact the Canadian International College has meant on our local economy. But it also means there are constructions, there are maintenance jobs, there are all kinds of jobs, as well as small businesses. Because we buy locally, it means that we then contribute in other ways to the economy. And I believe that most of the incoming councillors understand what that means, as well as the mayoralty candidates, that a university can be a very important contribution to the economy, economically. But it's also a very important, one of what they call the intangibles to the quality of life in a community. Because professionals who would hesitate in coming here, knowing that there's a university, will not hesitate to come because of the quality of life, the culture, the intellectual life, the future for their own children that a university can bring. And I think we're starting to see here in Western Canada and in British Columbia the beginning of the process that started in the United States of out-migration from the urban areas to the more rural areas, and with that bringing what Nelson has always stood for, which is a lot of the cosmopolitan nature of life while maintaining it here in the rural area.
Right. And I think that one thing that I hope for with a new university in this community is that many young people, when they graduate high school, will find one more excuse to stay here for a few more years before leaving on whatever adventurous journey they're going to go on, because I feel that we lose that energy when they go to Vancouver or Toronto, and I realize that many young people have to go away, you know, in their life, but it would be nice to have them for some part of that energy. I think we could derive a tremendous amount from it.
Well, the other part is that Nelson and the economy around Nelson isn't static, and we've even seen in the mills that jobs in the mills are not going to be the jobs that have always traditionally been here.
Right.
And so young people are going to have to rethink what they're doing and how they're going to accomplish that. And I think just the change of the recognition of our government of decentralizing university education, its decision last year, a year before, well, we started a year before that, but that the applications were up over 40 or 50% in some cases, shows that the population in British Columbia wants access and will take active participation in getting university education if it's accessible.
Right.
And we believe that Nelson University Centre will provide that for the people here in the Kootenays, but it will also draw those people from around the world who are interested in the kind of curriculum we're looking at. And I think that curriculum is really just reflects what Nelson's about. I mean, we've always been an outwardly progressive community and innovative, and I think our curriculum will show that and prove that. And by being smaller, we have the ability to concentrate on the undergraduate rather than the graduate. And that kind of education, everyone, I mean, I talk to people in the fine arts and they say there's no better foundation for being in drama or the plastic arts, the fine arts, or in music, than having that wealth of understanding of the history of human creativity, you know. And so I think that also will flow through to our artistic community. The decision not to go first with fine arts was a financial strategic decision. That kind of programming requires very specialized equipment, space, dedicated overhead that, as you know, as we are doing it by, I think the word was shoestring, but maybe it's me on shoestrings now, I don't know.
Sounds more colorful. Right.
And it is quite an experience to build a university from scratch and to grow rather than just to kind of appear overnight from the thigh of Venus or something.
That's right, yeah.
Well, with words like that, maybe I'll take a course.
On what, I wonder, huh? No, I just think you must be you're so extremely dedicated to start on this level and just keep thinking that it's going to grow. How many people are on the staff right now? I mean, just...
we have 12 faculty members.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Wow.
Not all of them are actively teaching right now, but we have 12 faculty members, and we have 3 in administration. And that number fluctuates depending on the aegis of the government employment programs that we have.
I see. Okay.
But we have Dr. Barch, who is the academic director, and the polls are close. So George Miller, who is running for alderman, is our registrar.
Right. Yeah.
But the reason we can do what we're doing is just the many volunteer hours of the board of the NUC Education Society and the dedicated people who are there of all walks of life, but all committed to the quality and excellence of a university here. We have volunteers, both academic, non-academic, just tremendous support from our volunteers on the Academic Council. And actually our faculty are at this point a volunteer faculty.
Yeah.
And some people say, well, how can you do that? You know, this is the 20th century. Well, sometimes I think we forget that this is how universities and education started, except with Charlemagne started somewhere and said there will be a university. It would be nice to find a benefactor. That would be very nice. But I think that there are some great advantages to, I don't say suffering in art, but we can grow and think through what it is that we see as a vision of what all people will need in the future. There's been a recent understanding that university education is just not for the high school graduate, that most of us are outliving our lives a long time in terms of the 65 years of age. And so that whether Nelson from the beginning, Nelson University Center had a vision that we would have, yes, the traditional high school graduate student, but also the person changing a lifestyle or wanting to redefine themselves in midlife, and those people who are retiring earlier, who will continue being contributors to our society for 40 years, even though they've graduated or they've retired. So I think that the nature of university education may go back to those early days of the Greek, where it really is a leisure pursuit of people so that they can live the good life.
That's right. Because it was part of your whole life. It wasn't something that was segmented into one tiny position in your life, you know, of an age. I mean, sometimes it's kind of strange or silly about what goes on, where we go through school and then we go to university and we're students and students and students, and then we're not students anymore. I do believe in learning, and that's what we do throughout our whole life, is learn. I mean, that's part of our whole process.
Well, we've used the term, instead of institution, to describe ourselves, academic community, because right now the people who are on the highest learning curve are the faculty and the volunteers.
Right.
And that knowledge, that leadership, that insight into what is a university, what happens, and going back from the word go, okay, wow, what courses do you offer? What makes sense for the future? It's a real exciting kind of enterprise to be involved in. How do you deliver that information? What is education versus training? Those are the kinds of questions that, you know, people who don't even, some of our volunteers have graduated from high school, but they are very dedicated to university life, and they're as actively involved in this question as we are.
Right.
And it's from my own personal experience that I think a liberal arts or liberal studies in arts and science education, something that gives you understanding of the fine arts, the humanities, the social sciences, and physical sciences, is the best preparation for our 21st century. Because without that understanding, how can you be a citizen who knows how to vote on election day, who knows how to participate and make decisions that we're going to be faced with? Currently, we're looking at a dichotomy that may be real or unreal of jobs versus the environment. How do we creatively get into that win-win situation in which we maintain the quality of our environment, the integrity of the planet, and provide a decent lifestyle for the people who are living there?
I'm watching out of the corner of my eye. You may see my eyes shift from time to time.
Well, this is what we're really doing tonight.
What we're waiting for is the final results.
Oh, looks like.
And that, I think, is going to happen very soon.
It looks like we're going to come up with some new figures at
And
least.
so I want all our viewers to bear with us here. We're going to have the results of the mayoral race and the aldermanic races in Nelson here. And we're talking with Pat Murphy from the Nelson University Center as we are awaiting the tally of about 3,000 votes for 6 aldermanic candidates and 1 mayoral. How come we don't have 2 mayors? No. I guess one's enough, you know.
Can't have too many cooks in one, right?
Well, who knows? It could be a job shared position someday.
It could be. You never know. I wonder how that would work. I mean, I have an admiration here too for the people who've been working down at the polls. They've been doing this all day long.
Yes.
Janet Postlethwaite and Doug Ormond have been there all day long working away at this.
I heard that they had a lineup at the door at 8 o'clock.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, I heard it was a good turnout.
Yes. So that's really exciting.
Well, I might as well get these. According to the last figures that we had on the mayoral race, Sand Lane got 7% of the popular vote, Stan Grill 28%, Bill Ramsden 34%, and Sharon Heflin 30%. It's been a close race all evening, but these percentages have remained about the same. They've remained quite steady. It's really a quite close race between the 3 people on the top there.
And okay, so maybe if what we can do is, if you have any, you don't have to actually stay with us right here until the bitter end. Do you have any words that you'd like to leave us with as we go into a 3-year term where council will not change for 3 years? We'll be able to work with the same city government for 3 years. Hear any words for them?
Well, I just believe that the council is representing the people of Nelson, and as such, Nelson has always been the innovator and has stood for all of the issues of quality of life. There's the library, there's the Capitol Theater, there's the great artistic community, as well as the innovation in business that is here. I remember a year ago, the Premier's Council on Science and Technology came and visited Nelson, the first time they'd ever gotten out of the Lower Mainland. And I was talking to many of the members there who said the mental set of the people who come down was that they were going to come to Nelson and tell us how to run our lives and to do things better. And what they came away with was the fact of the vitality, the creativity, and probably the future direction coming out of communities like Nelson, because that's where our future is going in terms of the world economy. It's the smaller community, and that we will be looking to the smaller community to provide the innovation.
Okay. Well, let's let Pat get back to her family.
Yes, thank you very much, Pat, for coming down.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity to say more about the university, and I appreciate the kind of enthusiasm this election has generated within the community, and a strong community awareness.
Okay, thank you very much, Pat.